A superhero can save an entire city and still eat dinner alone. That is Peter Parker's problem in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Everybody loves Spider-Man, but nobody remembers the person inside the mask. And that loneliness is about to change his body, his powers, and possibly his face. Full spoilers ahead. Years earlier, Peter asked Doctor Strange to make the world forget him. The spell saved reality, but it erased Peter Parker from every memory. His best friend Ned forgot him. MJ forgot him too. Aunt May was already gone, so Peter had nobody left to call. Now he lives alone in a tiny New York apartment. It contains one bed, several science projects, and approximately no happiness. Peter has stopped trying to build a normal life. Instead, he works full-time as Spider-Man. Crime appears, Peter swings out, bad guys fall down, and the city cheers. Spider-Man is famous. Peter is invisible. He works closely with police detective Jean DeWolf. She sends him toward robberies, chases, and villains across Manhattan. Together, they make the streets safer than they have been in years. Scorpion gets captured. Tombstone gets captured. Many smaller criminals also discover that webs are terrible transportation. Most of them end up inside the Department of Damage Control. The department stores dangerous villains, weapons, and secrets under one roof. That is convenient for the government. It is also a spectacularly bad idea. The facility is controlled by Bill Metzger. Bill smiles like a helpful official and speaks like every door belongs to him. He tells Spider-Man that a strange new attacker is moving through the city. Nobody can see her clearly. She enters people's minds, controls their bodies, and disappears before anyone understands. Bill wants Spider-Man to find her. Peter agrees because protecting people is the only life he has left. But Bill does not tell him everything, not even close. At home, Peter secretly writes a long letter to MJ. He explains their old friendship, their love, and the spell that erased him. Then he finds Ned and follows him to a new apartment. Ned has finished university and moved forward. MJ is his roommate, but she has also built a life without Peter. She even has a new boyfriend. Peter watches from a distance with the letter hidden in his coat. He wants to walk inside. He cannot make his feet move, so he leaves without giving her the truth. Spider-Man can lift a car, but apparently a doorbell is too heavy. Then Peter's body begins acting strangely. Headaches strike without warning. His senses grow painfully sharp. His artificial web shooters suddenly fly off his wrists. Real webbing shoots directly from his body instead. That is useful, surprising, and extremely difficult to explain to a doctor. Peter's eyes sometimes turn black. His anger also becomes harder to control. The spider inside him seems to be changing the human around it. Peter fears that one day the hero may become a monster. Bruce Banner studies the problem and recognizes a dangerous imbalance. Peter builds a small inhibitor to slow the change. The device keeps his new power quiet, but it also weakens him. For now, Peter chooses control over strength. Then damage control comes under attack. A heavy armored vehicle tears through New York toward the facility. Spider-Man races after it. Another hunter arrives with far less patience and far more ammunition. Frank Castle, the Punisher, wants the attacker stopped permanently. Peter wants everyone kept alive. They become partners in the same way two angry cats become roommates. Badly, Spider-Man webs Frank's weapons whenever he aims to kill. Frank complains that Peter keeps saving criminals. Peter complains that Frank keeps trying to remove them from the planet. Their argument continues through traffic, broken walls, and one very unhappy tank. The vehicle finally crashes near damage control. Inside the chaos, Peter encounters the invisible mind jumper. She moves through innocent people like changing rooms. Peter cannot punch her without hurting someone she controls. For the first time, his strength is almost useless. Bill says the attacker is dangerous and must be captured. Peter believes him. He tracks her movements while struggling against his own mutation. The mystery girl learns exactly where Peter is weakest. Not his body, his memories. She enters MJ's mind and approaches him wearing the face he misses most. For one impossible moment, Peter thinks MJ remembers everything. Hope rushes back before his brain can stop it. Then the real MJ wakes while Peter is carrying her through the air. She remembers none of their conversation. Peter realizes someone used his love as a trap. That hurts more than any punch. Peter takes MJ to Frank's heavily protected hideout outside the city. Frank has traps on the doors, traps on the windows, and probably traps on the coffee. He does not want MJ there. Peter reminds him that he owes Spider-Man after an earlier disaster on Staten Island. Frank finally agrees to help. Peter manages to strike the mind jumper during their next encounter. For 1 second, her real face becomes visible. He identifies her as Jean Grey. MJ uses her science knowledge to examine Peter's inhibitor. She discovers that his goggles are overheating the control chip. Together they repair the design. Peter then creates a universal inhibitor that might block Jean's psychic jumps. MJ sees how powerful the device is. She also sees how frightened Peter has become of himself. She tells him he does not look like a monster. Peter almost believes her. Jean breaks into damage control searching for something called VMAX. Bill and his staff hide behind a protected vault. Jean takes control of Bruce Banner's mind. Bruce transforms and Hulk attacks Peter through the facility. Peter tries attaching the universal inhibitor to Hulk. Unfortunately, Hulk's skin treats the tiny needle like a confused mosquito. Bruce briefly pushes Jean out of his mind, but the mental shock unleashes a wilder, angrier Hulk. Now nobody controls him. That is somehow worse. Frank arrives with enough weapons to frighten the furniture. His bullets do nothing to Hulk except make more noise. Peter stops fighting with strength and speaks to Bruce instead. He reminds Bruce that the monster is still part of a person. Hulk slowly lets go of his rage. Peter catches him safely in a giant web. Jean escapes into Frank's mind and forces him to open Bill's vault. She demands to know where her sister is. Peter attaches the inhibitor to Jean before she can attack Bill. As she loses consciousness, she says one name, Sara. Bill claims Jean stole that name from his memory. Peter accepts the answer and takes Jean prisoner. Then MJ finds Peter's old letter. She learns that he chose to erase himself from her life. Peter explains that he wanted to keep her safe after May died. He admits that he still loves her. MJ says she does not know him, and she cannot return feelings she cannot remember. Peter has protected her, but he also took away her choice. There is no easy web for that problem. Later, Peter apologizes for kissing MJ while Jean controlled her. MJ says she remembers absolutely nothing from that possession. That small detail changes everything. If Jean's victims remember nothing, Bill should not remember Sara's name. Bill lied. Peter contacts Yelena Belova and asks her to investigate. She discovers that Sara Grey / stress open A R schwa letter 261 R stress E small cap I / was Jean's older sister. Damage Control kidnapped both girls because they were mutants with psychic power. Bill was never protecting the city from Jean. He was protecting his secret from her. Peter races to Roosevelt Island, where Jean is being tested and tortured. Frank warns him that freeing her could get people killed. Peter goes anyway because capturing her was his mistake. Inside Jean's memory, two frightened sisters are abandoned for being different. Bill takes Sara and promises their powers will help the world. Instead, Damage Control forces Sara to jump between minds until her body fails. Her final clue is the faded name on an air vent. Ventmax becomes VMAX. Jean has been searching for the last message her sister sent before dying. When Jean learns the truth, grief explodes through the city. She freezes streets and people inside a vast psychic field. She tears off the inhibitor and releases Damage Control's hired fighters, the Hand. They attack Peter with weapons designed to destroy artificial webbing. Because Peter still wears his inhibitor, those weapons work perfectly. His homemade webs vanish. His strength drops. His black eyes return. Jean tells Peter that people like them never get normal lives, friends, or families. Then she asks whether he is Peter Parker or Spider-Man. Peter finally understands the question is wrong. He is both. Peter removes his inhibitor. His organic webs return stronger than before. His senses sharpen and the anti-web weapons stop working. But he does not surrender to anger. He traps the Hand without killing them. For the first time, Peter controls the change instead of hiding from it. Jean prepares to kill Bill for what happened to Sara. Peter refuses to fight her pain with more pain. He lets Jean enter his mind. Inside Peter's memory, Jean meets Aunt May. May shows her that being special does not make someone a weapon. Peter understands Jean because he also lost the person who raised him. He tells her that grief does not have to be carried alone. Jean's anger finally begins to soften. Then Peter's new senses detect a bullet racing toward her. Frank is fired from far away. Peter pulls Jean aside and takes the shot himself. He saves the person everyone called the villain. Peter falls and the psychic field around New York disappears. Frank realizes he shot Spider-Man and carries him to a hospital. The city hears that its hero may die. People gather with candles, masks, and red and blue lights. Jean escapes, but she reaches Peter's mind from a distance. She keeps calling him back until he wakes from the coma. Frank apologizes and admits that Peter showed real courage. Then Frank wears the Spider-Man mask at the hospital window. The crowd thinks their hero has recovered, while the real Peter leaves unseen. For once, the mask protects the person inside it. Jean boards a bus heading north toward an unknown future. MJ watches the same sunset as Peter from another rooftop. Peter visits May's grave and promises he will stop living alone. Detective DeWolf calls with one final problem. Bill Metzger has disappeared. At a neighborhood store, Peter meets Ned again. Ned first recognizes him only as the man who brought flowers. Peter offers his hand. Without thinking, they perform the old best friend handshake perfectly. Then Ned looks at him and says Peter's name. Maybe the spell is weakening. Maybe friendship remembers through the body before the mind. Either way, Peter is no longer completely invisible. After the credits, Ned's spider tracker searches for the hero. The signal leaves New York, passes Earth, and continues into space. Spider-Man is suddenly off-planet. So Peter's brand new day ends with a brand new problem. A very, very far away problem.